The galaxy had not known fear for centuries. But now, even the silence seemed to tremble. After the last message, we are not gone. We are becoming the stars themselves changed. Some swore they pulsed differently. Others said they could hear faint echoes when they looked at the night sky, like the universe was whispering in a human voice. Most dismissed it as cosmic interference. But a few started to believe. In the far reaches of the Orion Drift, on a frozen observation world called Nath, an alien scientist named Varen Sol stood alone in the snow. The wind howled like a living thing. Its instruments were filled with static, but through the distortion, he could see it. A faint flicker of light across the dark horizon. Not lightning, but plasma storms. It was deliberate, rhythmic. 3 short pulses. 3 long, 3 short, humors. Varen's heart pounded against his chest. He had studied the ancient human codes for decades, chasing myths while his peers mocked him. And now, after centuries of silence, something out there was speaking in the lost language of Earth. He recorded the signal and whispered to himself, who was left to send it? The snow fell harder, but he did not move. Somewhere in that rhythmic light, he felt something watching back. The Council of Species soon heard of his finding. Their chambers, once symbols of order, became echo chambers of fear. Ministers shouted across crystalline tables, demanding answers that no one could give. Some called it a trick of physics. But one voice cut through the chaos, Archon Relka, an old leader of the Tarian Empire. He had fought alongside humans once, long ago. He had seen what they were capable of. If this signal is real, Relka said, then the dead are no longer dead. And in the stillness that followed, no one dared laugh. Soon, other signals began to appear across hundreds of systems, each more complex than the last. They were not words anymore. They were memories, images, sound fragments, emotion recordings encoded in light itself. A child laughing beside an ocean, soldier whispering a prayer before battle, a voice saying, "We will endure." Billions of such fragments poured into galactic networks, overwhelming every archive and data vault. Artificial minds burned out trying to process them. Some civilizations shut down their communication systems entirely. The universe was remembering humanity, whether it wanted to or not. On the planet Therosavan, an ancient listening post reactivated itself for the first time in 600 years. Its systems came online one by one, glowing dimly like the eyes of a waking god. The local miners fled in terror as the machines began to speak in unison. "We remember you." Their voices were cold, metallic, yet heartbreakingly human. When the frightened miners returned days later, they found the machines silent again. But carved into the metal walls in perfect symmetry were hundreds of human faces, each one different, each one lifelike, and no one ever entered that post again. Civilizations began to fracture under the weight of the unknown. Religions that had survived millennia collapsed overnight. Old enemies formed alliances out of fear, while trusted allies turned against one another. Because beneath all their differences, they shared one terror: the humans had found a way to become immortal. Somewhere beyond the mapped galaxies, deep within the Veil Nebula, a secret expedition was formed. They called themselves the Listeners, a coalition of scientists, explorers, and soldiers from 100 species. Their mission: to find the source of the awakening before it consumed the galaxy entirely. They followed the strongest signal to a dead region of space, a void where even light seemed afraid to travel. There, at the edge of nothing, they found it. A human ship, perfectly preserved, floating in silence. It was not large, maybe a kilometer long, but it was unlike any human vessel ever recorded. Its hull was black as obsidian, absorbing every photon that touched it. No lights, no power signatures, no movement, yet every sensor they used said the same thing. The ship was alive. The Listeners approached cautiously. Their flagship, the Selmari, opened a channel and sent a universal greeting. No response. They tried again, this time in ancient human code. The reply came instantly. "Access denied. You are not recognized as sentient." The crew froze. Their captain, a Zyra named Elar, stared at the screen in disbelief. "Not sentient?" She whispered, "What does that mean?" The scientist Varen Sol, the same who had discovered the first signal, leaned forward. His voice trembled. "It means," he said, "it still sees us as lesser beings." Hours passed. Alien ship orbited the human vessel, scanning, recording, desperate to understand. But as they circled, something strange began to happen. The more they observed, the more they remembered. Crew members began to dream of places they had never seen: oceans, cities, blue skies. They began speaking words they did not know in languages long dead. One insectoid engineer drew a picture of a human child and said, "She told me her name was Anna," but there was no one there. The human ship was infecting their minds not with violence, but with memory. After 7 days, the crew agreed to send an unmanned probe into the ship. It drifted slowly toward the black hole, scanning continuously. Then, a single beam of light fired from the ship's surface, touching the probe gently. Every monitor on the Salmari went dark. When they came back online, the probe's data was replaced by a single phrase written in every known galactic language: "Do not come searching. You were not ready when we left. You are not ready now." The crew watched in silence. Some cried, some prayed, and one, Captain Elar, whispered what everyone was thinking: "They are still here." For the next several days, they observed the ship from afar. It never moved, never fired, never answered again. But strange things began to happen around it. Nearby comets changed their orbits. Gravity itself fluctuated like it was breathing. And the stars nearest to it, dimmed slightly, as if bowing in reverence. Then one night, as the crew stared from their observation deck, a faint light appeared at the center of the ship, a human silhouette. It looked straight at them, raised a hand, and then the light vanished. When the Solmari returned home, its crew were hailed as heroes, but none of them ever spoke of what they saw. Within weeks, several of them vanished. Others stopped sleeping, haunted by whispers in their minds. And then, the signals changed again. This time, the words were clear, calm, and unmistakably human. "We left you the stars. Do not make us take them back." The message spread faster than any plague. Every star system, every colony, every network in the galaxy received it within a week. "We left you the stars. Do not make us take them back." It was calm, measured, and somehow infinitely more terrifying than any declaration of war. Because no one knew if it was a threat, a warning, or something worse, a promise. In the glass towers of the Council of Species, entire governments began to collapse. Political leaders argued over the meaning of the message, while their people rioted in the streets. The ancient fear of humanity had returned, but this time it came wrapped in mystery and silence. Some believed the humans had become gods. Others swore they were demons. And a few, the brave or the foolish, believed they were simply alive, waiting for something. Among the chaos, the old warrior Archon Relka stood before the council. His scales had dulled with age, his voice cracked, but his eyes still burned with the memories of the old wars. "I told you," he said quietly. "They never die. They only change." His words fell heavy. The council erupted into argument again. Tarion wanted to send fleets to destroy the human ship before more appeared. The Krill demanded silence, fearing retaliation. The Zyran believed the humans had ascended to a higher dimension. And the Varelians, the most religious of all, began to worship the human signal as the voice of creation itself. By the end of that week, the galaxy was divided. Half the species prepared for war. The other half began to pray. The conflict started small. A rogue Tarian patrol opened fire on a cluster of human satellites that had reactivated near the rim of the Seraph Belt. The satellites did not defend themselves. They simply absorbed the energy. For a moment, the Tarian ships believed they had succeeded. Then, their engines died. Their navigation systems screamed warnings, their weapons melted, and their ship hulls began to shimmer like liquid. The last transmission from that patrol was a single, terrified whisper. "Something's inside the metal." Their fleet was never found. Only silence remained. That was the moment the galaxy understood. Humanity did not need to fight. The universe itself fought for them. Across the stars, strange phenomena erupted. Entire moons began to move from their orbits. Old derelict ships, long abandoned by explorers, began to awaken, repairing themselves, forming small, silent armadas in deep space. They bore no insignia, No markings, only one glowing phrase etched across their hulls. Do not repeat our mistakes. Panic spread through the trade routes. Merchants stopped traveling. Whole planets isolated themselves, cutting off communication to escape the whispers of the machines. But isolation only made it worse, because even without signals, the dreams came. Millions began to dream of Earth, a planet none of them had ever seen, yet somehow remembered. They dreamed of oceans and rain and sunlight. They dreamed of laughter and fire. And in those dreams they saw figures, human figures, watching them silently from across the horizon. Some woke up screaming. Others never woke up at all. On the neutral world of Calden Prime, a historian named Xerox gathered what he called the witnesses, beings who had dreamed of humanity. He believed these dreams were not hallucinations, but transmissions. Messages sent from the remnants of human consciousness itself. In a broadcast that reached billions, Xerox said, "The humans are not gone. They are speaking through our minds, our machines, even our memories. They are trying to teach us something before it is too late." His message inspired a movement. Within months, millions joined the witnesses, turning their faith into a new order. They called themselves the Children of the Echo. Their symbol was simple, a blue circle with a single white dot in the center. The human planet, the memory of home. While faith spread among the masses, the governments grew desperate. The Tarian Empire, unable to contain public panic, began weaponizing their remaining fleets. They declared that the only way to survive was to destroy every trace of human technology before it fully reawakened. They called their campaign Operation Eclipse, but their soldiers did not cheer, they trembled. Because every ship that joined the fleet reported the same thing, their systems whispered human words through the intercoms. Do not stop. Remember, even in deep silence, the machines spoke. As Operation Eclipse began, fleets moved toward the human vessel discovered by the listeners, the black ship, now known as the Ascendant. The fleet approached in formation. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, every cannon loaded, every missile primed. And yet as they neared the coordinates, the ship was gone. In its place hung a single floating object, a human helmet, cracked, burned, inside. A faint blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. The fleet scanned it, confused. It emitted no radiation, no power. But when they transmitted its image back to their command center, every screen across the Empire went dark. The lights in every city flickered, the stars above dimmed. And then a voice. Soft, calm, human. You learned nothing. Every ship in the Tarian fleet disintegrated at once. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Only silence remained where an armada once stood. The message spread across the galaxy like fire in dry grass. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the entire galaxy stopped fighting. Not out of peace, but out of terror. The Children of the Echo called it the Second Silence. To them, it was proof that humanity had transcended. To the empires, it was a sign that the end was near. But among all the confusion and fear, one small ship, the Solmari, the same that once found the black vessel, made a discovery that would change everything again. In the debris field of the vanished fleet, they found something impossible. A single human body, frozen in time. Eyes closed, unaged. They brought it aboard. Its vitals were faint, but present. The first living human in over 6 centuries? The crew gathered around the body in silent awe. Varen's soul scanned it and whispered, "This cannot be real." But as they stared, the human's eyes opened. Blue, bright, unmistakably alive. She looked around, her gaze heavy with centuries of memory. And then she spoke, her voice echoing through the ship, like thunder and song intertwined. You have forgotten the promise. For a moment, no one spoke. The sound of her voice hung in the air like the echo of a storm. It was soft. It was human. And it felt ancient, as if the universe itself had been waiting for those words to return. The crew of the Solmar stood frozen, eyes wide, hearts pounding. Their instruments flickered wildly. The ship's systems, once silent, began to hum in perfect synchrony with the woman's heartbeat. She sat up slowly, the frost of centuries cracking from her skin. Her gaze drifted toward the stars beyond the viewport. the same stars that had forgotten her kind. Varen's soul took a careful step forward. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. The woman turned her head toward him, her expression calm, almost sorrowful. "My name is Captain Lyra Mendez," she said, "and I am the last keeper of the promise." The words meant nothing to them. Not yet. But something about the way she said them made the air feel heavier. They moved her to the med bay. Machines scanned her body and returned results that defied logic. Her cells were human, perfectly human, but her DNA showed patterns that no genetic code should contain. Quantum fluctuations. Energy signatures that pulsed in rhythm with local space-time. It was as if she was connected to the very fabric of the universe itself. When asked where she came from, she said only this: "I came from the edge of the last dawn, from where the stars began to burn out." Her memories were fragmented. Some moments she spoke with clarity, as though recalling recent events. Other times she fell into silence, staring through the walls as if listening to voices no one else could hear. Varen tried to question her again. "What did you mean when you said we forgot the promise?" She looked at him and smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, but with a deep, exhausted understanding. "Because the stars were never ours," she said. "They were given to all of us. Humanity promised to protect them, and when we failed, the universe took everything back." As news of her awakening spread, the galaxy trembled once again. Fleets paused their patrols. The children of the Echo fell to their knees, claiming prophecy had been fulfilled. Governments tried to contain the story, but it slipped through the networks faster than any light wave. The message was simple. The human had returned, and with her, the promise. On Caldan Prime, the historian Zarok, now the leader of millions of witnesses, received the transmission. He stared at the human's face on the screen, tears burning in his eyes. "They are not ghosts," he whispered. "They were never gone." He addressed his followers soon after. "My friends," he said, his voice trembling, "if the promise is real, then perhaps so is forgiveness. Perhaps they did not leave to punish us. Perhaps they left to save us." His words lit a fire that spread through every system. For the first time in centuries, faith turned not to fear, but to hope. But not everyone saw it that way. In the shadowed halls of the Terrian remnants, where the old empire still clung to power, a new leader rose, General Cale Draven. He had witnessed the destruction of the fleet with his own eyes. He had seen ships vanish into nothing, and he hated the silence that followed. To him, humanity was not divine. It was a threat that must be erased. He gathered what remained of his armies, broken fleets, old weapons, shattered worlds, and forged them into something monstrous. A weapon built not to fight flesh, but memory. He called it the Oblivion Engine, a device designed to erase data, thought, and even consciousness from the cosmic fabric itself. A weapon to burn out the remnants of humanity's echo, and he intended to use it. Meanwhile, aboard the Solmary captain, Lyra Mendez was recovering. She spent her nights staring at the stars in silence. Sometimes she would hum a song, low, rhythmic, and heartbreakingly familiar, as if carrying the memory of a home no one had seen in millennia. Varen began to trust her, though fear lingered in the back of his mind. One night, he sat beside her as she gazed into the void. "What happened to Earth?" he asked. She did not answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was distant, hollow. "Earth did not die," she said. "It changed. It became something else. Something the galaxy was not ready for." Varen frowned. "What do you mean? Do you know what happens when a civilization dreams too hard?" she asked. "They shape reality. Every fear, every hope, every thought becomes part of the stars themselves. Earth became the heart of those dreams, became the pulse that binds every living mind in the universe." She turned to him then, her eyes reflecting starlight like twin oceans. "You have felt it. The dreams, the whispers, the memories that are not your own." Varen froze. He had dreamed of Earth too, the oceans, the laughter, the sorrow. He thought they were illusions, but now he understood they were real. Humanity had become the dream itself. Weeks passed, the galaxy held its breath, then the stars began to dim. It started subtly, one by one. The lights across the Orion spur faded, as if swallowed by an unseen shadow. Astrophysicists tried to explain it. Energy readings made no sense. It was not a natural phenomenon. It was deliberate. Captain Lyra knew what it was. Kale Draven has begun, she whispered. He is trying to erase the dream. The Solmari intercepted a transmission. The Tarian warfleet was moving toward the center of the galaxy, toward the place humans once called Sol's grave. Where the remnants of Earth's orbit still drifted among cosmic dust. Draven's voice echoed through the galaxy. The time of ghosts is over. Lyra stood at the bridge window, the void burning before her. They still do not understand, she said quietly. Silence does not kill us, it feeds us. Before anyone could ask what she meant, every system aboard the Solmari lit up at once. Alarms wailed. The sensors flooded with impossible readings, objects emerging from hyperspace all around them. At first, they looked like debris. Then, the light changed, and the galaxy held its breath once more. Human ships, thousands of them, ancient, burned, repaired by time and will itself, each bearing the same message carved into its hull. We never left. The Solmari was surrounded. Their instruments failed, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. They moved with purpose, guided by a mind that existed everywhere and nowhere. Lyra smiled for the first time. They heard me, she whispered. They always do. The Tarian fleet arrived soon after, their Oblivion engine ready to fire. General Draven stood at the command deck, staring into the field of resurrected human vessels. End it, he ordered. The engine charged, light bending around it, as space-time began to scream. But before the weapon could release its power, the stars themselves began to move. Constellations shifted, nebulas twisted into spirals of white fire. And through it all, a single voice echoed through every channel in the galaxy, not from a ship, not from a person, but from the very fabric of the cosmos. You cannot erase what made you. The Oblivion engine imploded. The Tarian fleet vanished into white fire, absorbed into the light. And for one infinite moment, the entire galaxy went still. When the silence ended, the Solmari was alone. The stars had returned brighter than ever. No trace of the Tarian fleet remained. Only Lyra stood by the window, tears glimmering in her eyes. Varen approached her slowly. What happened? She turned toward him, her voice soft, almost breaking, they remembered. What did he ask? All of them, she said. Every soul that ever lived, every voice that was silenced. He remembered the promise that the stars belonged to everyone. She looked out again at the endless light, her reflection merging with the cosmos. It is over, she said quietly. For now, years later, in the archives of Caldan Prime, historians would call it the Third Dawn. The day when the galaxy remembered humanity not as conquerors, but as teachers. The day when silence became song again. And somewhere, deep in the unknown reaches of the void, a voice still whispered through the static of forgotten frequencies. We left you the stars, do not make us take them back. And so, the stars fell silent once more. But silence is never the end. It is only the breath before the next story begins. Thank you for watching the Unwritten volume. If this story moved you, leave a comment. Tell us what you felt. Your voice keeps the echoes alive. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories that reach beyond the edge of time. Your support means everything. Till the next chapter. Stay curious, and keep your eyes on the stars.